Testing. Joe does. How about that one? How about that one? Testing. Testing. This is the fifth meeting of the Country Club Subcommittee, which I'll call to order now. This is the biggest group we've had in a meeting in a long time. Thank you all for coming. We're going to be here till about 8 o'clock. I'm going to move public comment to the end of this because I think it's a better way to do this. We get from folks who are still here at 7:30 or so. We can take public comment now instead of now. We are here to get input from the community, from the folks on each of as many of the four proposals as we can. There's one in each corner here, which was staffed by city staff. Councilors are also here. We are here to listen. It really should have been called an eavesdropping session because that's what we're going to be really listening to your impact. But if you have questions, staff will try to help you out. On each table next to the presentations are the proposals themselves. We have limited copies, so if you want to take a look at that, please don't walk off with it. When you're done, put it back so somebody else can take a look at it. At the end of the night, you can walk off with it. We also have these forms, which this is a printout of what the input form is online, which you can actually complete that form online at the table over here. If you want to take this home and do it at home, you can review proposals with this QR code. You can access the input form with this one, and you can access the Q&A if you have a question that you'd like to get a specific answer to that you didn't get answered tonight. Other than that, I don't think I'm forgetting anything. Again, you're welcome to move around and talk to as many folks as you can. And around 7:30, we'll see who's left and we'll try and get some feedback.
So you could just recap how you.
We're going to, yeah. Brian Pine, who along with Stephanie Clark of White & Burke has been helping us navigate through this process, and he'll bring us up to date on where we are in the evaluation of the proposals. Brian.
Thanks, Sal. So as Sal said, I am the city's consultant, Brian Pine. I work with White & Burke. I live in Burlington and sort of started my work in this area, this field, 35 years ago in Montpelier for the Vermont Community Loan Fund is where I got my start. So I spent 7 years, more of my time during those 7 years in Montpelier than I did in my hometown of Burlington. But I think the subcommittee member, one of our subcommittee members said tonight is it's your chance really to sort of dig in a little bit deeper, do a bit of a deeper dive, ask questions of us. We're really here to hear and absorb and hopefully provide clarifications. And so, you know, use us as those resources. The process to date is spelled out on on the city's website as far as all the steps that have taken place. If you go into the documents for the subcommittee, and I think subcommittee members, I believe, are all here, and at some point we should just identify who they all are. Sure, let's do that now. So Sal spoke already, as you know. Adrian Gill, you can wave and take the applause. No. Evelyn is with us as well, Evelyn Prim from city staff. Councilor Ben Doyle with his Red Sox hat. Okay. We have Matt, and Matt is in the back. Matt Jelasic. Did I get that right? Close enough. And Mike Miller from the planning department. Mike is here, but he's out there. All right, great. Yes, Alec is here tonight from the Parks, the Recreation, the Parks Department. Yeah, great. So our job tonight is to provide a forum, but it's not a forum where we present necessarily. But I'd like to just touch on some of the key milestones ahead of us, really. The subcommittee is hearing from, in addition to the public input, city committees, city boards and commissions and departments are putting in questions that will hopefully be answered by the various developer teams to be able to provide the public with deeper information on issues that have been raised by folks that serve in those roles. The subcommittee meets on a regular basis. The next meeting is the 18th. And at that meeting, we'll sort of go over the remaining timeline that the process will involve. We will review the public feedback. We may dig in a little bit more to the proposals. We will get a final sort of take on the financial analysis of the proposals, which I should just clarify is really, think of it more as a review of whether their numbers make sense rather than a review of whether each development team has the financial wherewithal, because we haven't gotten to that stage yet. That comes later to pull off a project of this scope and magnitude. We will be reviewing tonight's feedback. Hopefully will be part of that as well. And we will look to the developers' responses to the questions that have already been asked by the subcommittee. We're then going to follow up on the week of the 23rd to begin interviews. These will be virtual interviews rather than face-to-face because the teams are from all over the region. So we'll be doing interviews starting on the 24th, and that's the subcommittee meeting with the developer teams in virtual settings. We then are aiming, as a subcommittee, they are aiming to provide a memo to the council with a recommendation by April 17th is the goal. I should just say that's a goal. It's not an absolute hard and fast date, but it's a strong goal, I'd say, for the committee. Committee members, you can help me out here if I forgot to mention anything. Yeah, Adrian.
We do have computers set up. So there's 2 here. There's a whole table of computers. And we encourage you, if you feel like it, to provide feedback. Our one call to action is that you complete the input form. So there's a hard copy with all the questions. It's on the computer, so you can go in and type your input. We ask that you provide some feedback for all 4 development proposals. And if you're like me, I like to see what the questions are first to think about them, ponder them, and then you can go onto the computer to answer them. Just to, before you leave, it takes about 5 to 10 minutes if you want, but you can also go home. As Brian said, there's the QR code, but that is our call to action today. We're seeking input on these 4 proposals, and I'll just read the questions. What excites you about this proposal? What is your biggest concern? What change would make the proposal more beneficial to the community? And do you have a question you would ask the developer? And there's final thoughts. Do you have any other thoughts or questions you'd like to share with City Council about this project? And we ask what zip code you live in, what age bracket you're in, how many people live in your household, and an email if you want updates. And so just so you know, we will look at every single one of these responses. They're not going into a black hole. So the subcommittee, the city council will have access to every single one of your input, and we value them. We will look at them.
Adrian, you should also point out that they were on Front Porch Forum and they are on the city's website that surveyed them.
Yes, so we've tried to,
Some of your email.
yes, emails, Front Porch Forum, they're on the website. There's a QR code here. We've tried to make it as easy as possible. And if you don't want to use a computer, I think we have a paper form that you can fill out too if you want a paper and pen. We will take that also. Any way you want to provide information, we will accept it.
You want that by Monday.
Our goal is by Monday. So that is why we have all these computers set up. We have 2 hours. Take a look at the 4 proposals, talk to your neighbors, talk to staff, talk to council, and then you can come sit at the computer and write down your thoughts before you leave. Anything else?
I just wanted to add 2 last dates is April 9th and April 15th is the subcommittee's bulk of their deliberations and considerations of all that they've gathered at that point. These are public sessions. So if you want to express yourself, that's an opportunity as well. Thank you.
Let the listening begin. Really, stand up. There's really not a presentation. It's all about you walking around and grabbing in what information you need. Thanks for coming. There's a staff member at each of you can ask council as well, but there are people at the easels to help you out. And there are entire proposals there if you need to look something up. Although if you have one, take a look at it and then please put it back on the table so someone else can use it. We only have 4 or 5 on each table. Thanks, everybody. look at the plan, these are the areas that we identify as quite a bit. Also, so all of this all together, you build more areas. Actually, so on. Some of the attack on the 25. Well, the existing also goes over the house. That goes out to here. But yes, this is the flat area. North, southern hill. This is really the town.
Yeah.
Well, there's actually a much better.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Right, and there's only the one too.
right now.
Yeah. How far is it to Gallatin Hill Road?
So, that's all. Yeah, you don't- And then, down here,
Like Herkimer Drive, something like. Probably just have to. No, it's not that long.
anyway, yeah.
Yeah. So that comes down quite a bit.
Well, we have.
This is a possible 300 homes. I live over have like a picture. I know. Out like standardized. Something for that. When I read them, I'm like, okay, good. But things like stick out for different. That's why it's like. Potential. I think it's the one of the most. It's like on it, one of my brothers wants to be something that's like this is so. I know. Make up her own mind. And then like they'll start building.
Definitely.
There we go. Yeah, we're gonna happen. No, I think like. And I think. Yeah. I know. Yeah. Well, Mary has to come in and get the conflict resolution. I was like, but if you know, going to college next year and become close. And it's been happening. I like listen. But or they're all due, but it's been very interesting because in the real world outside of high school, there's like this is like, oh my god, there's so much more stuff. Oh, people want to watch the costume.
Yeah. So there.
Right now. Same amount that I was talking about. It's like house and the computer program. So it's the same exact. Still, but So. Well, if you want to pay, it's got. The number one. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Let's like get really.
I'll give you some. I call it ugly. By elegant, yeah, the frame. And these are big sources in the drawing just from the questions I asked and the.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. They're PDW. PDW is right here, I got these five lines, plus none of them.
I understand. But I'd be happy to read your analysis.
and entering a development.
Honestly, like when we get, I and you know, I'm gonna read this, but like I just think like we should yeah, yeah. Or like you know, we've got like a lot of I don't mean to generalize, but I find some translations say things like, well, in statute, and then you'll even like reference the number. Like if you can actually cite the specific. Like,
That's what you got. You got this $500,000.
The stuff in writing is like.
Yeah, it's pretty late. It's pretty, you know?
Well, anyway, get my point. Like it's hard to really consider.
Then you have to ask questions and you know, ask for a pointer or something, or have somebody trustworthy.
Yeah, I just think it would be great if like you were, if you're making a description based on like just like. Okay, well, anyway, thanks for coming.
Where would you go? Hello. I just have a quick announcement for 1 second. Maybe. All right, well, I'll just let everyone know at 7:15, we're gonna open it up for public comment. So you have about 15 minutes to mingle, and then we'll hand the microphone around to folks that want to ask questions to the group. And then we'll keep that going until no one has any questions left, or 8 o'clock, whatever comes first. So at 7:15, we will come back to our seats and do public comment. Hello. I hate talking into microphones. All right, I think we're gonna go ahead and start our open, what's it called? Public comment. I always say open comment. I don't know what it's called. I think Sal's our fearless leader. He's talking. Hi. So we're gonna have our public comment. We'll take any questions you have up until 8 o'clock. And don't forget to submit your online feedback form of all the great things you learned today.
So, I'm glad you're still here. We wanted to move this up because people were getting antsy, maybe haven't had dinner yet. So I have a microphone that I'll bring out to people. Please tell us who your question is for. Maybe it's just for nobody, maybe it's not a question, maybe you just want to make a comment. And try to keep your comments to a couple of minutes so that we can give more people a chance to speak. So who is first? Let us know who you are too.
Hi, I'm Mark LaRosa. I live in Montpelier. I'm also the board president at Turtle Island Children's Center. And we are a tenant up on the property in the Elks Club building. We just moved there over the fall. And I mostly just want to say the city and Turtle Island worked very well together to move our school up onto that property. And I really appreciate the support from the council, from Kelly Murphy, everybody at the city. So I'm sure we'll have a great working relationship. We do just want to make sure that our voice is part of the discussion as we develop our leased property for our program and as the plans for the new community up there go forward. I think we're excited to be part of a community. And yeah, we're excited to be part of the process. So thank you.
So concerns like this these are all preliminary plans, and ultimately, whoever we decide to work with, we will hammer out a detailed development agreement, which will require negotiation to resolve issues that come up along the way. So, who's next?
I just have a question about the assumptions that the city is going to do all the infrastructure work. I'm Deb Reed. I live here in Montpelier. So that was my question, is just the assumption that stated in many of these proposals that the city of Montpelier will take responsibility for roads, stormwater, water, communication, septic, all that, before they're ready to do their projects.
I can speak to that somewhat. The city has applied for several grants to handle infrastructure from the roundabout at the intersection of 2 and 302 to Country Club Road and up to the existing building. So that's one contribution that the city's going to make. They need to increase the size of the all the piping that's underground and repave those roads. What most of the developers are talking about is the internal infrastructure involving all the water and waste lines underneath the roads, and then the roads themselves and the sidewalks. And again, it's part of the negotiation. They're all asking the city to contribute that, and that's part of what we'd hope to be able to pay for that with the tax increment financing. And that's a calculation we have yet to make. So it's a very important financial calculation that we need to make to see if the tax revenue will in fact support that. Right now, we're not even sure. We need to put a number on what that infrastructure might cost, and then see what how much of that the tax increment would cover. So before we made a commitment, we would try to estimate those numbers. Mike, does that cover everything pretty much? Close enough? Go ahead, Brian.
I don't think Sal necessarily touched on the fact that we're getting an we're getting an estimated assessed value for each proposal as if it were built, so that we can then really run the numbers on what, based on that assessed value, what it will generate for new revenue. So we will have that information as part of the subcommittee's deliberations.
I'm Phil Dodd. I live here in town. And as I understand it, with the chip, the bond to pay for that stuff can either be taken up by the developer or the city. One of the people here, this one, I think, is saying they would take it on. And the difference would be if the project runs into trouble, the developer would be on the hook for that bond paying for the infrastructure, as opposed to the city. So as a taxpayer, I'd prefer the developer bear the risk.
Thank you, Phil.
Yeah, I want to ask, like, what's the rush? Why are we allowing a consultant and subcommittee to decide that the city council has to make a decision by April, Steve Whitaker, Montpelier, by April 22nd to choose a developer? But this is a brownfield. This has toxicity of lead, mercury, arsenic, and heptachlor epoxide. And it's going to be several more years. The delineation has not even happened yet for how deep into the ground that goes, or how many truckloads of soil need to be trucked out of there or new soil brought in. And yet we're about to make a decision, or we're told that council's going to make a decision on having denied us the process of a master plan for this property, which is missing from the city plan we just adopted. State law says that we, as the public, get to participate in a planning process, but yet Country Club Road was set aside and handled differently by a different set of rules. And that's not proper, it's not legal, and it denies. Even the planning commission felt that they were disenfranchised. They were told to hands off. This is being handled somehow on another route. So this appears to be driven by consultants wanting a contingent fee of $300,000 from the new tax base increment. So the money that would generate from this, also that until the brownfield is done, completed, we won't know where any roads or ravines or plumbing utilities can go. So all these plans are just pie in the sky, unfounded. None of them mean anything until we've got a completed brownfield plan. And that's a year or two away and probably hundreds of thousands of dollars. So this whole thing is ass backwards and being driven by staff, not our planning commission, not our complete streets commission, not a public planning process. And why are we allowing this to happen? We need to just put the brakes on it, get it cleaned up first, figure out the traffic, and then figure out what could live up there affordably. But if we lose the one public property where we could truly build affordable housing, I mean, not subsidized housing, but housing below 200,000 that service workers in Montpelier could buy, that will be the tragedy of the commons. That's, I'm sure you'll have answers.
Thank you, Steve. Well, I mean, we've heard that forever, Steve. The developers are all aware of the situation at Country Club. The city is taking all the required steps with the state regulations, and it'll be a part of the development agreement. At the time we have that discussion, all of these concerns will be covered. Rosie.
Hey, Rosie Kruger. I have two comments. One is that the Chinburg proposal got me thinking about the flat area being used for housing, and the other proposals don't do that. And I imagine that will be, for some folks, a negative against that proposal. I actually started thinking about, they proposed it, I understand that way because it will be less expensive to build on flat property. And thinking about how with our flooding risks, we have a lot of flat land near the river that would be really well used for athletic fields. And that this is one of the only areas of the city that's up above the floodplain and flat. And so I think in general, trying to use, and I know, there was an earlier planning process about what we wanted for the site, and this might have been a more appropriate comment then, but trying to maximize the use of this flat space that's above the floodplain for lower cost housing makes more sense to me, because we have all of this flat space near the river that would be flooded, but could be good for athletic fields. Other comment was that I think two of the proposals use Down Street, and two of the proposals would be operated by other folks other than Down Street. And I love Down Street. I'm a Down Street donor. I think they're a great organization, but I did start to think about how it could be good in general for there to be some diversity among the affordable housing projects in town. Just to spread the risk, if something were to happen to Down Street, that we'd have a large affordable housing project that wasn't tied to them, and just to have a sort of a diversity of different affordable housing operators. So, I think I'm curious what Down Street has to say about that, but I think that could be an advantage of some of the proposals that don't rely so heavily on them.
Yeah, that's something we're going to be interviewing the developers in the next 2 weeks, and it's a good question to ask them. Also hope to be interviewing with Down Street themselves. So, recreation, of course, was an initial part of the purchase there, and all of the developers have recognized the city's intent to use it for that purpose. That I suppose could change if the city wants it to. So. Thanks for that. Who else?
So my name is David Kidney. I live in Montpelier. And I'm going to preface what I'm going to say by just saying that I just retired in June, but I spent 42 years as a public defender and a juvenile defender in Washington County. And especially since COVID, I would say that in the family court, I would say probably, and Garrett could correct me if I'm wrong, as a guardian ad litem that I worked with a lot, but I would say probably 70 to 80% of the cases, that one of the main issues was lack of housing. And so I'm certainly aware of that issue, feel strongly about it, and understand the need for affordable housing. I also think, having lived here for 40 plus years, that in the last 20 years, the only housing that's really been built is affordable housing. And I too am a huge fan of Town Street. They've done a great job in Montpelier. But there hasn't been any housing developments, single family homes. The only ones built would be by an individual, not by a developer. And the housing that's in the pipeline in Montpelier is more of the same. We've got a housing project on Northfield Street. It's going to be affordable housing. Up at Washington County Mental Health. That project across from Heaton Woods is going to be affordable housing. And likewise, the Rite Aid, I think, is an affordable housing project. So as much as I am a fan of affordable housing, and I think it's going to continue other than those three projects, because it is the most financially feasible to build, as well as the need for it. I think there's also a huge need for single family houses, duplexes, triplexes, housing that firefighters, police, teachers, social workers, tradespeople, young families want to live in. And I know, because my daughter lives here, and I know so many young people trying to get back here, that that's what they're looking for, and it's really hard to find. So out of all three of these projects, the only one that comes close to meeting that need seems to me to be Executive Suite. I think Penrose has no owner-occupied units at all. The others just have a smattering few, but I believe that that's like 75% owner-occupied. And it's not owner-occupied for rich people. I think some of those houses, they were saying we're going to be under $200,000. So I think for those reasons, that's a project that I would support the most. I like the fact that it's local. Huntington Homes, a lot of my clients got jobs there. They're a great employer. They pay well. They treat their workers well. And I think they're going to build a majority of the houses with the Executive Seat. I'm not as familiar with Vecto Home, but I know they're local. I don't know anybody who works there. So I like keeping the money in our own community rather than shipping it off to Boston or New Hampshire or Burlington even. I like keeping it here in central Vermont. And I assume if Huntington Homes got this, they'd even expand and hire more people. So those are my thoughts. I think I've heard a few people say they think there's a little bit of pie in the sky with this proposal. There was another developer, O'Brien Brothers, that somehow didn't make the cut. O'Brien Brothers in South Burlington submitted something that was all single family homes, duplexes, triplexes. But O'Brien Brothers has built affordable apartment buildings in Chittenden County. They've managed them. They've been around 75 years. They built the first fossil-free fuel community that Bernie and Becca were there cutting the ribbons, saying how great this is. So I really think as much as we need, and there's a lot of affordable housing in this, let me be clear about that, but it's owner occupied. And I do think that it would attract young families. It'd be a place that people could, what do they call it, downsize, and then some of the bigger homes would be freed up. And I probably extended my time, but those are my thoughts about this. Thank you. And if we could bring O'Brien Brothers back into the fold, I think it'd be great. I think we really should let them submit it, especially since we were supposed to have 5 and we went down to 4. I think we should let them back.
Thanks, Dave. This is the reason we want your input, is for this kind of stuff. What you see here from the developers is their interpretation of what we wanted in the request for proposals. And this input is our opportunity to say, we like this, but we don't like that. So all this input is something that's really valuable to us in the coming weeks when we're, trying to figure out what's next. Anyone else? Last chance.
Polly Nickel. I live in Montpelier. I worked for almost my entire career in affordable housing for Vermont Housing and Conservation Board. And I guess the one thing that I kind of take away from that experience is the importance of having a developer who has experience in this kind of development, both multifamily and for sale, and also in property management. I mean, this is a big deal for the city, and it's complicated business anyway because of all the federal funds involved. And I just hope that we really will look for depth of experience in all aspects, from design to construction to property management, and familiarity with Vermont. I mean, proposing one large, enormous rental building with 140 units or whatever it is. I mean, that's not really Vermont. Anyway, those are my thoughts.
Everybody filled out a survey. Be great if you haven't, before you leave, you could give a chance to do.
Hi, I'm Deborah Messing. I've lived in Montpelier for 25 years or so. About the proposal from Executive Suite. I don't know how to weigh in on the issue of experience, although I know if you go to the websites of the individuals who are on the team, you'll find that there's a great wealth of experience, but maybe not in something of this magnitude. But other than that, as a senior, this really appeals to me, to live in a multi-generational, mixed income, net zero community. I think this is the most appealing to me, is to live in a little cottage or a duplex or triplex. And I really like the fact that attention has been paid to the needs of seniors, with perhaps a clinic and a day center, and to be in the middle of a community where there's kids and then there's different age groups, and then to have the whole thing include a farm, which to me would be a real gathering place and a unifying concept, is very exciting. Also, the different modes of transportation, and just in general, the cluster effect and the design of the houses. And there are different builders, so each builder would come with their set of experiences as well. But I do appreciate Polly's concern that maybe, well, I don't know. I really don't know about the experience factor, so I won't weigh in on that. But just to say this would be my choice by far.
Ron.
Hi there, I'm Fran Dodd. Lived here 47 years, something like that. I have to say, the only one that appeals to me is that one as well. When we had sessions out at, planning fantasy sessions out at the Country Club Road property, I was envisioning something that would be somewhat future oriented, that Montpelier is the city capital, and wouldn't it be great to have Vermont concepts, future oriented thinking involved? I'm happy to see the concept of solar panels on there. It's a very south facing oriented property. It's also one that's oriented towards the land that's there. So it makes it very appealing. Some of them feel very urban. Is it this one? That one there makes me feel as if I'm driving into the center of Montpelier. And then, so there's a block there, center of Montpelier, and then all of a sudden a couple, some other smaller buildings and then land. And I just don't know that you need the center of Montpelier out there when you've already got the center of Montpelier downtown. One of the things that I really don't understand is the need for 100% rental housing, which is what the Penrose plan is at the moment. Maybe all of these can change, but it just doesn't make sense to me. I think there's a lot of people who would like to own what they live in, even if it's not a big fancy house. To own something small would appeal to, I think, many people. The other two, Schinberg and DEW, have some ownership, but DEW, it's 10%. 10% just seems way too low to me. It doesn't appeal to me. It doesn't promote investment in the community, longevity, ownership, connection, which is what I would think you would want. I was asking some questions about the Penrose one and what the advantages of rental is. Well, we have a low vacancy rate, so we need to make a lot of rental housing so people can land somewhere while they look for what they want. Why not make what you want there? Even if you land in some of the rental housing, maybe you'd look around at the rest of it and say, I'd like to be here. So I think the idea of having a place that you want to be, that's a valuable addition to the town, would be really good.
So I know some people don't like to stand up in front of a crowd and talk about their deepest feelings, particularly about a chunk of land. I hope that you filled out an input form. I hope that you'll ask a question online if you think of one when you get home, something you wanted to talk about and forgot about. If you didn't get a chance to do the input, if it wasn't comfortable for you to do it here and can't do it at home, send me your email. I mean, any of us on the committee be happy to hear from you personally in the next week or so about anything that you heard here tonight, or that you didn't think to say, or just didn't feel like saying in front of a big crowd. But it's been great to have you all here. Yeah. So don't feel that you've got to worry about that. I'd be happy to get your comments on my city email.
Hi, since I've only been here 47 minutes, I thought I would take a moment and just introduce myself as the new city manager. I'm Kelly McNicholas Curry. I've had the chance to meet and talk with some of you, but I just wanted to say hello. For the rest of you, I haven't. And, you know, this process started before I came on board, and you have a thoughtful team. I'll be helping that team shepherd this through, and we'll be answering a lot of technical, financial, and planning questions as the council gets all the information that they need to make a thoughtful decision to see this project into the next new coming years of Montpelier. So just wanted to say hello and thank you all for being here.
Okay, I guess that's it, folks. Thank you very much. Thanks to the staff for doing a good job on the booth. And let us hear from you if you didn't get a chance tonight. Thank you.